Yeah, so I do work at the West Country Rivers Trust and use SCIMAP for that. I'm going to talk about my geography degree dissertation that I carried out on looking at SCIMAP and the fitted SCIMAP approach and how that can be linked to diatom data. So I'm going to start by taking you back to my second year of my degree when I was trying to work out what part of geography I was really interested in and that I wanted to take further. And I think for me it all comes down to how we can make the biggest improvement to the environment. So how do we use what we know to make positive change to the world around us? But I'm sure everyone in this room will find that the biggest obstacle to that is that we don't have all the resources that we need to be able to do that. We don't have the money or the time or the people to know everything we need to know. So we need to work out how do we use the information that we do have at our fingertips to make the best decisions about using the resources that we do have to make positive change. And I also love rivers, so this became a sort of obvious setting to start asking those questions. So for my dissertation I focused on two parts of the Water Framework Directive. One was reducing diffuse pollution, and to do that we need to sort of prioritise certain areas because by its nature it's a massive problem. And also, on the other hand, looking at ecological status and focusing on diatoms. So diatoms are a type of algae which are really sensitive to nutrient enrichment and water quality. So it linked quite well with diffuse pollution. And I drew those together to assess how the diffuse pollution in the catchment I was looking at was affecting diatoms, and that's where the fitted SCIMAP approach fitted in really nicely. How does the fitted approach differ from the standard SCIMAP model that I guess everyone here is familiar with? Where the standard model, there are assumptions made about what kind of risk ratings you'd give each land cover class. So you'd assume that arable would have the highest rating of 1, whereas improved grassland is much lower at 0.3, acid grassland 0.05, and going down to urban at 0.01. And these are based on logical assumptions, but there's so much difference between catchments. So perhaps your catchment might look more like the left-hand side of the screen, or parts of it might look more like the right, and that will affect how much those land classes are contributing to pollution. So the two sources of knowledge that you have in catchment management are monitoring, which has positives and negatives, and modelling. But what the fitted SCIMAP approach gives you is a way to combine them together and bridge that gap, because you are able, with the fitted approach, to calibrate the model to your measured data. Not sure why it's overlapping, isn't it, over here? Okay, so my project focused on the X catchment, which is in Devon and Somerset, and much of the catchment has failed WFD in the past, since 2013 and 14, and only the green areas are passing. So I started off my project by using the standard approach, so elevation data, rainfall data and land cover data was put into SCIMAP and reweighted in the usual way to give you the in-channel fine sediment diffuse pollution risk. And from that I chose 50 sample sites, which were spread over those values, so 5 for each quantile of risk. So for each of those sites, I started off by measuring some of the chemical components, just fairly basic, so temperature, conductivity, total dissolved solids, depth, width. And I was lucky enough to borrow a benthay torch from Lancaster University, which uses fluorescence to measure diatom, blue-green algae and cyanobacteria concentrations. I'm not going to focus too much on that, but I did find that it wasn't particularly useful for the investigation. So I mainly focused on trophic diatom index, which is a standard approach used in the Water Framework Directive. And it's based on the species of diatoms in the river and how they relate to likely phosphorus levels based on the sort of tolerances of those species. And it basically involved me scrubbing rocks and toothbrush by the side of rivers for 4 days. So these are the results. I'm going to focus, well, just flag up this area around Simsbar. It's not working. But just in that small area there was some of the highest TDI values and also some of the lowest. And I just wanted to note that because I think that had implications for how well the model worked. So with a fitted approach, what happens is it produces what I chose to do 1,000 random simulations of land class model, and then it gives you the risk values for each of your 50 sample sites, and you can then do correlation tests to work out which of those random simulations captured your data most accurately. And with the one that best fitted my data, I reran SCIMAP. So here's a sort of standard approach versus a fitted approach. And you can see it turned it completely on its head. Now the highest values are further up in the catchment. And for each of those, this is a graph showing diffuse pollution risk against the trophic diatom index. And interestingly, you could probably say that the standard approach captured the data better than the fitted approach, although being ecological data is both quite messy, so it's difficult to say whether either of them are really doing that. Yeah, I'm going to talk about some reasons why I think that might be the case. The first thing is diatoms and all ecology is so complex. So whereas the Uden Rivers Trust might have found a good link between sediment, diatoms sort of one step ahead because it's sort of indirectly related to diffuse pollution, and it's so sensitive, and it responds within about 2 weeks to any pollution changes. So it's difficult to get a sort of long-term overview of the pollution. Also, the ex-catchment has a really distinct difference between the upper catchment and the lower catchment, not just in terms of morphology and land cover, but also in terms of its geology and its soils, and that might not be, well, that wouldn't be captured by the model. If I was to do the investigation again, I would also do more than 1,000 simulations and consider that geology and the soil, and more sample points and over a longer period. Okay, I'm going to start by going back to one of the earlier slides. So it's true that the results of the investigation were really neat. They didn't show, a perfect correlation. But I think going back to what I was originally striving to do, which was use the information we have available in the best way, it did serve that really well, because it forced me to ask those questions and understand the data in a way that I wouldn't have done without looking at both the modelling and monitoring data side by side. And also I think perhaps maybe the answer is that diatoms in this case, in this catchment, weren't really being affected by diffuse pollution. Perhaps point sources were much more important. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.